Hi, Flutterby's. It is Butterfly. Guess what? Today, something interesting happened. A few hours ago, our Prime Minister, or Premier, Ontario's Premier, declared it was a state of emergency because of this COVID situation here in Ontario. This is like a global pandemic. This is something that has been, shaking up a lot of the story. The news stories are just filled with COVID. What does that tell me? Maybe there's nothing else to talk about, like the crime rate. What is happening to the crime rate? Is that like people aren't, suffering from crime anymore? They're all just sort of like huddled at home. I don't know. If anything, that would be a good thing, right? That comes out of this. Right. Anyway, so now we're in a state of emergency. I have to tell you, I don't think my life has really changed much so far, other than when I go to the stores. It just it, shelves are empty. Shelves are empty. It started like a few days ago. Um, last Friday morning, I went and like all the toilet paper was gone. I was looking for hand sanitizer because my daughter, who was still going to school at the time, before they closed the schools, um, was being told to bring hand sanitizer. So I went to the store and there wasn't anything in any stores, no sanitizer. And curious thing, the pasta had disappeared and the toilet paper had disappeared. And I thought, well, that's really pasta and toilet paper. I guess people need to have those things. So, but then as the days progressed, it really became clear that there's something's shaking, something's amiss. And I think we really have to kind of take a bit of a step back and reframe a few things. Now, I know that the authorities, government, people in power are managing things. So when we're looking at managing anxiety and depression and stress, we have to kind of differentiate what we can control and what we cannot. So the things that we cannot control are managing things from a government perspective, right? We have to follow the direction that we're given. Stay home, socially isolate, wash your hands, and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to talk about is what are you going to do once you're at home? Because it can be really isolating for some people. It can be a really anxiety-provoking situation, and anxiety over time can be very depressing. That's something that I can talk about. That's something I know about, and how you can manage your symptoms of depression and anxiety, and specifically around this situation right now. Now, my hair is a little gray. So I've been through a few situations like this before. No, I haven't lived through a pandemic. However, there was a Thursday, I think it was called Black Thursday. I had come back from work probably around 3:30 that afternoon years ago. Oh, what would it have been? What year was it? 2000 and something, 2 or 3, somewhere in there. It was either 2002 or 3. I'll have to look it up. Anyways, it was a Thursday where sometime around 3:45, 4:30, something like that, all the lights went out. I thought my landlord had like turned out, I just thought it was like a trick or some odd thing. Ends up being like everything from Ontario all the way to New York, everything was black. And people were afraid. People were going to their cars to listen to the radio because we had like the refrigerators, everything was off. And I don't know if there's enough people around who were old enough to remember that situation, but that was quite scary because security systems, do you go to work, do you not go to work? At the time I was working at a hospital where I was doing home visits for people who had severe mental illness. And so how to reframe things so that you're bringing reassurance to them. Anyways, that was quite the thing. There was another situation that was quite more of an epidemic, kind of pandemic, I guess. I don't know. I'm not an epidemiologist, but it was the SARS. I was also working there around SARS, and that happened around the same years too. Somewhere, when was that? 2002 to 2004 ish, somewhere in there. And SARS was, I was doing the same job. going to people's homes and helping them. I was part of an interdisciplinary team, working with psychiatric patients in their homes. And essentially, we were wearing masks, those paper masks, and it was winter, so we were wearing like those paper boots on top of our boots, like paper and hospital type slippers on our boots and gloves, and we had to like document symptoms coming in and coming out and going. Oh, it was just and the hand sanitizer, and we didn't know exactly how to limit things, and it was a thing. Then of course there was 9/11. 9/11, September 11th, 2001. And that was tremendous. That was shaking at things globally. I remember I was working at the university at the time, doing a small job at the bookstore, and people were coming on and saying, okay, there's a world war that's happening. They 2 buildings just went down, and now the Pentagon got bombed, and we didn't know what was coming next. Devastating by the time I got home that night, just watching the buildings fall on replay, the sinking feeling of what's going to be happening next. How evil can people be? So these are all situations that I've lived through, and I've also heard my mom talking about the World War, Second World War, in the early 40s when there was rationing. There was rationing of food. There was only so much of a portion. Like everything was portioned. The slices of bacon, the I don't even know, like the water that they could bathe in. They had to measure a certain height in the bathtub, put a black line in there, and you could only put the water up to that much, and that was the bath, that water for, I guess, for the family or whatever. And women would only wear their lipstick. They didn't have like makeup. First of all, they didn't have a world of buy whatever you want and however much you want at it, of convenience like we do today. But they did have their makeup. But in the World War, it was rationed. It was so rationed. Some people didn't even have nylon, so they had to draw with their eyeliner a line up the back of their leg. Why? Because that was the style of nylons that people wore back there. They had a seam down the back of their leg. So to make it look like they had nylons, they would draw a seam at the back of their leg. Anyway, all of that to tell you that there's a bit of a historical perspective when people come together during times of chaos and what in the face of something that's really, really stressful, you need to sort of reframe and be positive, because that is part of survival mode. In good times, if you're positive, that means that you're thriving. In bad times, if you're positive, that means you're surviving. And there's no reason why we can't thrive at a time like this either, because we do live in a world of abundance. I think it's crazy when I went to the stores and all of the toilet paper and the hand sanitizer was off the shelves, just shelves and shelves and shelves of pasta and everything gone, flour gone over the last few days. But if we don't have water, it doesn't matter how much toilet paper you have stocked up. I mean, we really need to kind of pay attention to our resources. And why am I talking about water and air and kind of prioritizing? Well, it has been said that the planet is, well, first of all, I think the planet can really take care of herself. And I have heard at one point that the whole global warming is kind of like a reaction from the planet herself, where she's basically having a fever. Like when we have a fever, an illness, a virus, a bacteria, a parasite, our immune system responds with fever so that you can repel the virus, so you can repel the parasite. Well, I don't remember what the source is because it's just somewhere in my mind, but it has been said that the planet is reaching a fever pitch so that she can expel. It's like a response, her immune response. So she's taking care of herself with this, global warming. But I think, there's a few really good effects that are also coming. I mean, first of all, hey, COVID, people are dying. I'm not going to say that that's a good thing. No, that is really sad. And I do have intentions in my prayers for the people who are affected. I pray for the people who who are affected, whose loved ones have been affected by this. However, that is kind of like a catalyst. That is a catalyst. It takes that to shake us up. And one of the things that is happening environmentally and happening socially, there's a lot of things that are happening as a response, as a way to adapt to this COVID. The satellite pictures over China, because China was the first place. That was the first place to be affected, so it's the first place to kind of bring everything to a standstill, including transportation, including all the pollution-making stuff that was going on there. The satellite pictures above, when you're looking over China, have been showing less pollution, clean air. Despite the fact that it's taken an awful catalyst of human death, I think the planet is taking care of herself and shaking us and waking us up, because this very relaxed sort of attitude towards environmental concern is kind of not good enough. We need to be shaken up. Well, anyways, that's what I wanted to say about that. But there's actually a few other things that I wanted to say about with regard to how to reframe your thoughts in the face of all this anxiety and stress as we're dealing with this. And so, what are we being told? The authorities are telling us to socially isolate, which means stay home. It means if you're out of your country, come home. That is kind of good news, because we are always in a rat race with never enough time to do the things with the people who matter most. Our children are forced to stay home because there's no school, there's no daycare. You may be in a place of work where there's, things are closed. So you are also staying home. If not because you can't go to work, because you have to stay home and somebody has to take care of the kids. So that means the net effect is that we're at home with the people who matter most. That's really a good thing. That's really a positive thing. We have air, we have water, and spiritually speaking, for me, the elements are really important. I know that this summer, the element of fire and earth are also going to be pretty important, because I think more people than not, if this sort of global concern continues, we are going to be cooking outside, maybe using fire. We are going to be planting our gardens and doing with what we can, and rationing. I don't know about you, but I plan on doing a little bit of homeschooling with my kids. Because if they're going to be away from school for that amount of time, do you think for 1 second I'm going to leave them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for months on end sitting in front of the TV? No. I'm going to unplug the modem, and we are going to take, an hour a day and focus on one room until we run out of room, and then we're going to start all over again. One room in the house, and we're going to clean it. We're going to clean it for about an hour. And then when the hour's done, whatever's not clean is just not going to get clean. So we're talking baseboards, we're talking ceiling, we're talking ceiling fan lights, we're talking dusting and purging, putting everything in one place so that when all this pandemic is done, we can drive everything off to the thrift store and share the wealth. It's time for cleaning. It's also springtime, which that's what you do in spring. It's called spring cleaning. So that is a really, really positive thing that you can do now. I mean, it's time. Reading your books. Do you have a lot of books and hobbies and crafts and board games that are not electronic? Things that you can do with your family, things that you could do with your friends or the loved ones that you have close by. And spend some time with them. Because if ever there was a time to do it, It's right now. It's right now. I'm also saying that it's time to kind of sit down and meditate. If we have to socially isolate, it's the best time to feed your soul and really nourish yourself with anything and everything positive. Yeah, I think that's basically everything I want to say. I'm just kind of looking down at some notes. Yeah, just basically, everything gets prioritized. The things that are non-essential left first, like trading and Dow Jones and all these crazy things. And I have no idea what goes on over there. And those people with big money and all those big numbers, those things, they're all going kaput. The price of gas is going down. All of the frivolities and the luxury. Do you know when I go to the store, what do we notice? Like I said, all of the toilet paper and all the essentials and all the preserves and all the foods that'll last a long time, those things are gone first. What is fully stocked and not going? Chips. Yay, at least we know. Chips are fully stocked. And the beer, those beer aisles are all fully stocked. Nobody's touching those things. Usually every weekend on a Friday, those are the first things to go and everything else is on the shelf. This is a complete reversal. It's funny, actually, to kind of take a bird's eye view of things. Anyway, I just wanted to come on and give you a short message of hope and just making sure that you are the author of your thoughts. You are the author of your emotions, and to keep your feet on the ground with this experience, because it's easy to lose track of what's important. We're going to be okay. We will. Things like this has happened before. There are tragedies that have happened. This won't be the last thing that happens to us. Sadly, there are earthquakes, there are floods. I've heard some people talk about the end times and predicting the end times. I've been around the block a few times, and enough to know that people predict the end times and have been predicting the end of times since the beginning of time. At some point, somebody's going to be right. That's just inevitable. Good news is there's only one end for all of us at some point. It's probably not all going to happen at the same time. You only get to die once. Well, at least most of us. Oh, anyway, no, I don't think this is the end of time. No, this is going to be managed. This is going to be something we get through. I don't think it's going to get so horrible that we can't manage. But if it does to get to be so horrible, you are still the author of your own thoughts. You are still the author of your own feelings. And if nothing else, I'm going to continue to make some videos where you can find some nourishment, spiritually speaking, and you can find some ways to manage your feelings of anxiety and depression. And I think together, that's the thing. That's the other thing that I want to say about this. One of the good things that has come out of this whole pandemic is that people are realizing how interdependent and interconnected we all are. That's the truth. That is really the truth. So what you do and what you, even behind closed doors, really matters. If you're washing your hands and nobody else knows about it, it matters. It matters. It may seem like something that is insignificant, but each of us really, really do matter to each other. So, having said that, I wish you well, and take care. Take care. Chin up. Keep busy, and stay safe.